Good morning, baseball wildlifers. Happy Monday. How's everybody doing? How you Met fans doing out there? We'll talk about that later. But today, as always, we kick off the week with our weekly update from Utopian Baseball Universe Wiz Joey Buchholz, or some like to call him Joey Parmesan. And I'm sure there's a story behind that. Maybe Joe will tell us. But until we find out whether he wants to share that info or not, he's going to tell us everything that's going on in the utopian baseball universe. And as always, they're coming down in a stretch. I saw you down to like 24 games remaining, Joey, but enough for me to talk about that. Let's have you talk about it. Take it away.
All right. So, yeah, I will address the nickname here really quick because I think it's an interesting story. Back in 1997, I worked in a call center, and my boss, I'm Italian, I'm Sicilian. My boss was Italian. And we had this one guy that worked with us who was like racist towards Italians. He would say, like, hey, I'd walk into the break room, he'd be like, hey, it's Joey Calzone or, Joey Fettuccine. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm Italian. I get it. And so my boss, who was a really good friend of mine, started just playfully calling me Joey Parmesan, and I call him Bobby Romano. And then there was another guy who wasn't even Italian. He just kind of was a friend of ours. We called him Billy Mozzarella. And he actually sadly passed away about 5 years ago. And about 6 months before he passed, it was the last time I saw him, he said, you got to keep the cheese. We called it the cheese mafia. You got to keep the cheese mafia alive. So there's three people on this earth that now have their own cheese nicknames. So it's just kind of a term of endearment with us right now. So I've been known as Joey Parm now for almost 25 years. It actually, it used to be my email, Joey Parmesan. It's a whole thing. There's actually probably people in this world that think that's my real name.
Well, occasionally I'll be referring to you as Joey Parmesan. And folks, the reason why this all started was I was telling Joey that once I become friendly with people, I want to give them nicknames. I always do. So it's very rare that I call a person by their real name after a while. So I was trying to think of something before I hooked up with Joey this morning, one they're calling Joey Bats. It seems like Joey Parmesan is going to stick. And I think in your coming attractions, you'll be hearing Joey Parmesan Buchholz will be appearing on Monday. So it's going to stick. You need it. You need a gimmick. You need a gimmick. You need something that folks can relate to. So whenever you're putting Parmesan cheese on your spaghetti, you'll be thinking of Utopian Baseball Universe. But again, we're deviating from the topic of Utopian Baseball Universe. So Joey, take it away.
So as Stan mentioned, we have 24 games left in the regular season, and the next 4 days will be the last non-division games of our season. This year, we're ending it with 21 division games. So we've got some unique matchups that haven't been seen all season and haven't been seen in these particular parks in the history of the Utopian Baseball Universe, because for non-division games, they rotate cities every year. So tonight, the Yankees come to Miller Park for the first time ever in the Utopian Baseball Universe, and that will be our final ABC Monday Night Baseball telecast of the year. Will be tonight. Will be Red Ruffing versus Martin Dehigo. Now, Stan, you're going to be interested in this matchup. Tomorrow in the universe, the Mets are at Minnesota. The pitching matchup in that game, Ron Darling versus Frank Viola.
Ooh,
they had
a little Yale St. John's revival.
Exactly. That was 40 years ago, I think, this year, where they had one of the greatest pitch games in the history of baseball. Roger Angel's piece on that game is the reason I became a writer myself, where he actually attended that game with Smokey Joe Wood. And the rematch is tomorrow night in the Utopian Baseball Universe. Ron Darling for the Mets, Frank Viola for the Twins. Very excited to present that to everyone. We've got 3 Xbox streams coming up. Today we got the Red Sox at Pirates. Good old-fashioned 80s pitching matchup, Bruce Hurst versus Doug Drabek. Wednesday afternoon, we've got San Diego at Durham, who's still the leading team in the South. And then Thursday afternoon, we got Washington at Cincinnati. What's unique about these 3 matchups is that all 6 teams, as of right now, qualify for the playoffs. So we're going to try to feature a lot of those teams as we head down the stretch. As far as the standings go, Not a lot of movement this past weekend. The Red Sox have a 2-game lead on the Blue Jays. Durham has I believe, a game lead on Tampa Bay. San Francisco's got a 3-game lead on San Diego, and Cincinnati remains with a 3-game lead on Cleveland. So starting this Friday, it's all division games to finish the season. Basically a round robin, because we have 4 divisions of 8 in the Utopian Baseball Universe. So each team is going to play every other team in their division in a 3-game series before we start our postseason, which is Wednesday, September 29th. We call it Wild Card Wednesday. 4 games, 4 winners advance to the Division Championship Series, which will kick off on Friday, October 1st. So that's what's going on. A lot of exciting things. And the reason the ABC telecasts are ending tonight is I know somewhere out there's a Utopian Football Universe, and I'm sure they have ABC Monday Night Football as their Monday, marquee game. So to honor something that may or may not exist, we're going to end the ABC games tonight, but we're still going to continue with NBC and TBS and all the ESPN coverage. So it's going to be a fun week, I believe.
Yeah, you read my mind. I figured that's why you were stopping. And sure enough, you answered my question beforehand. But in case there's a college football Utopian Universe, I think usually on Labor Day night, ABC has a game on college football. So maybe on ESPN, because they switch a lot of those games to ESPN now. But out of respect to college football, I can see why you're ending it here. And nothing against Utopian Baseball Universe, but when college football Utopian Universe opens up, the first game always gets monster ratings. So I can understand why. And then Monday Night Football kicks in. So baseball usually takes a back seat, but I always say that baseball ratings are very misconstrued just due to the fact that you have so many regional networks and baseball on every day. If you took the cumulative viewership, it would just blow all the other sports away.
Higher.
Right. But the fact that it's every day, the ratings per game aren't going to be that high. But I think more people are tuned into baseball per se than football. Football has a large audience. Don't get me wrong. I think baseball over the long haul has more of a following when just on TV. And like I said, Sundays are, now I'm really deviating here. This wasn't on the script, folks, so I'm going off the charts here. But I think football in general is a big event day, whereas baseball is something that people follow all the time on TV. And you don't have to watch every game in baseball to follow it, but it's always nice to watch them. And I think that's why baseball doesn't get the respect it deserves when it comes to TV viewership. But enough of that. But I do like your Bruce Hurst, Doug Draback matchup. If you're an 80s baseball fan like I was, and you're a Mets fan, you're very familiar with both pitchers. And they were very, very good. If you look back, those guys would be like $20 million pitchers this year and these times. They were good. It wasn't all about the stats with them, but they gave you durability and consistency year in, year out. So that's a good matchup. And I guess your wild card day, all games are going to be played on one day. Is that correct?
Yeah. So last year, it was probably the most engaging single day in the history of our Utopian Baseball Universe was last year's Wild Card Wednesday. I did a show in the morning previewing the 4 games. We telecasted all 4 games live. So we did, I think, a 9 a.m., a 1 p.m., a 5 p.m., and a 9 p.m. I'm not sure how I'm going to break that down this year, but I just announced on the show on the Utopian Cafe that any day in the postseason this year where we have multiple games, you're going to have at least one morning game. So we're probably going to do 8 or 9 a.m. For the first at least round, because we're probably going to have daily games for the first round, maybe even the second round. If there's multiple games, we're going to do 9 a.m., 8 or 9 a.m. Every day, so that, if you're coming home from work and you want to just catch it on, on demand or whatever, I guess it would be called, you can just play it and you don't have to necessarily wait for it. So we're going to do that just to get kind of a jump start on the day. So the cafe will actually preview the games, and then the first one's going to be right off the bat, and then we'll try to do like a 5 o'clock or a 5:30 game for the second one. But yeah, Wildcard Wednesday, everything else is off the table that day. We gotta make time because it's a half-hour game, so we're talking 2 hours. Got to make sure the battery's charged. Got to make sure I'm charged. So yeah, that's going to be a fun day, I think. And I'd love to have, we don't know who's going to be in those games yet, but I'm planning to do the night before, September 28th, have a fan from each team competing on Wild Card Wednesday on a special show, talking about that day.
That'll be great. That'll be great. And I like morning baseball. I always like when the Patriots game is on.
Yeah.
Boston 11 a.m. and
Sure.
I think the Nationals on July 4th play like 11:30 in the morning too. It's always fun because it's unique. So you don't want it to be every day, but for Wild Card Wednesday, that sounds good. And all the playoff games, whenever that's going to happen, that sounds good. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Now, is there anything else you want to add about the Utopian Baseball Universe?
I think right now, we can go over some league leaders. I compiled actually some leaders for statistical categories. Right now, our home run leader is Ken Griffey Jr. He's got 28. Our RBI leader plays out of the North Division. Sammy Sosa has 102, and Carlos Delgado right behind him with 99. Joe DiMaggio hit 2 doubles yesterday. He's got 36 doubles to lead the universe. Willard Brown of the Toronto Blue Jays, 13 triples, leads the universe. Cool Papa Bell has 42 stolen bases. Batting average, our top 3 right now, Wally Joyner at 341, Ty Cobb at 336, and Todd Helton at 333, with about 3 weeks left. And then for pitching, we have 3 16-game winners. Addie Joss for the Cleveland Indians, Tyler Glasnow, the Tampa Bay Rays, and Old Hoss Radbourne for the Durham Bulls. All with 16 wins. We didn't have a 20-game winner last year, and we have an outside chance at a 20-game winner this year because all of these guys have between 4 and 5 starts left on the season. Bruce Sutter leads the universe in saves with 23, and leading the universe in strikeouts right now, Smokey Joe Williams, 202, and the best pitcher right now, and I think I mentioned this on the show last week, Jose Rio, 15-2, and he's also got an ERA under 2.4 right now. So those are our leaders right now in the universe. 8 games today, again highlighted by Yankees making their first appearance at Miller Park tonight. Babe Ruth versus Robin Yount from Miller Park.
Nice. It's funny because if you were listening carefully to all the names and the leaders, Joey gave the answer to one of our only Jeopardy question of the day yesterday. Well, I'm going to give it anyway because someone answered it correctly anyway. Willard Brown. Yes, Willard Brown. And Willard became the first African-American player to hit a home run in the American League with an inside the park home run off of Hal Newhouser. Now, that is a question that you really have to know baseball and answer to. And a lot of people don't even know who Willard Brown is. But in the Utopian Baseball Universe, you know who Willard Brown is. He's one of the league leaders. So things fall into place there. Good promo for Willard Brown. He's getting his cred both in your group and our group.
Yeah.
So looking forward to all that. I'm glad you ran down. It gives you more familiarity of like what's going on in the league when you do these stats. So I really do appreciate it. And I think it keeps the people more tuned in too. So every week, if you could just run by those stats, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
As far as the Utopian, I think we're set. I know you and I we're going to talk about Javy Baez.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that because no one's really talking about it this morning.
Yeah.
So it's kind of flying under the radar. I mean, everywhere you look, it's Javy Baez, Javy Baez, Javy Baez. Now, I'll make a disclaimer before we get into this. I never boo at a game.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see the rationale behind it, but I could understand why fans boo. They're paying their hard-earned money, and if you went to a concert and a singer was just dogging it on stage, you'd boo. So if you think you're not getting the performance you paid for, you boo. Same thing with a Broadway actor. If he's just going through the motions, he'll get catcalls from the audience. So I can see why fans boo. I personally don't do it. I don't see the point. again, I'm not that emotional when it comes to a team losing. I do get happy when they win, but I'm not one of these people jumping up and down. I'm just ecstatic inside. It's a euphoria I get. Uh, but what I don't get is Javi Baez doing what he did and then having followers of him doing that, like Francisco Lindor and Kevin Pillar. Yeah, maybe they thought it was funny, and I get the joke, but they are the paying customers. And I think they do have to realize that when you're paying customers, boo, they're paying your salary. And they're not necessarily unhappy with your performance. I think in general, it has to do with the team's overall performance. And the front office is as much to blame as anybody because they're putting the product out there. But you're also the main reason why the result is occurring. Uh, and I think Sandy Alderson's taking the right approach on that. And he's saying that the fans can boo. And I think he's doing that to protect his hide too, because the Mets have a financial interest more in the fans than the players. The players can come and go as they please, but the fans always support the team. So in a way, I got the gist that Sandy was kind of condoning booing, and I'm not that fond of that, but I am fond of the fact that he's getting them together because you don't want to go there and have players you're paying to see taunt you in the audience. So I don't know how you feel about it. I mean, I'm not upset either way. If they want to do that, they do that. I was at a game. It's probably before your time. I was in '79 Mets. I went seeing Richie Hebner struck out, and the fans. There's only 6,000 people in the stand, so this is going back way back when, and he literally flipped the bird to the fans like that, and the fans went hostile. And Hebner says, "I want to get out of New York. I want to get out of New York." Well, to be honest with you, Hebner wasn't performing, and New York, Boston, Philadelphia, they're all going to be cities that are going to let you hear it. And it's just a fact of life. The unfortunate thing is now Met fans are probably going to get a bad reputation because of this, but it happens everywhere. And I think with media the way it is these days, it is going to happen everywhere, not just in this local area. But I think Buster only, or Ken Rosenthal was saying, well, they really don't even boo in Chicago. So it might be an Eastern Seaboard thing. I don't know. But I was just interested in how you felt about that.
So I'm kind of like you. I don't boo results. Like if a team loses or a guy's struggling at the plate, I don't boo that. I boo lack of hustle. Like when Cespedes was here and he'd dog it in the outfield, turn a single into a triple, that kind of stuff. I don't like that, but I don't like visibly boo. I guess I show displeasure in other ways. But what Baez and the Mets are doing, I really don't like it. It almost seems condescending to me. Like, oh, if you're gonna boo us, we're gonna boo you. Uh, I don't like the approach. And again, I've been very from the day the trade happened. I'm not a fan of Javy Baez. I know he's a dynamic player. I know he's going to hit you 30 homers, but the way at the rate he strikes out and his really poor defensive play, I really hope we don't extend him and sign him to a long-term deal. I know he's going to command upwards of $200 million, and I just don't think he's a good fit. And he's obviously, like, right now having an effect. I mean, I know him and Lindor are best friends, but Kevin Pillar actually had to go to Twitter last night to like defend the action, saying that, oh, I think it's being misinterpreted. We're not booing. We're just trying to have fun with you. Well, unless that's explained prior to, fans are not going to take it that way at all. So I didn't like it. I hope we don't see it again. I hope they can come up with something that kind of unites the players and fans. And look, I'm not apologizing for the Mets fans that are booing. They have the right, like you said, they have the right to do that. But I think the Mets are one of the fan bases, maybe like Philadelphia or like the Yankees, where if we're not winning a World Series, there's this kind of exaggerated, like, oh, it sucks, trade this guy, fire the manager. And I'm not all for that. I love my team through and through. I know we're struggling right now. We've had a really bad August, but the fact is we just took 2 or 3 from Washington. 10 of our next 13 are against the Marlins and Nationals. If we can figure out a way, and I say it because it has happened. The '69 Mets, I believe, were in what, 5th place in mid August or something like that.
The 73 Mets or the
Was it the
69?
73 Mets?
73 Mets were actually in last place on this day yesterday.
Okay.
Wow, this day yesterday. Yesterday, at that point, they were now officially in last place. So they were like 6.5 out, but they had to pass 5 teams.
Yeah.
But here you only have to pass 2 teams, so it can be done.
Yeah, it can be. It has been done. It can be done. I like, as a fan, I like to take it a day at a time or a series at a time. Just, hey, can we take 2 or 3? Can we take 2 or 3? The unfortunate thing is we're running out of time, so we're going to have to start taking 3 of 3 in some of these series. And I think these 10 games against the Marlins and Nationals, this is the time to get right before the final stretch of games, which I'm guessing is going to be way harder than Nationals Marlins. Like, they come here to Milwaukee at the end of September. I'll actually be at that game September 24th. My first game in like 25 months. So, I'm not a fan of what I'm seeing out of them, but I hope that we can just kind of move on from it. And I hope the emphasis is back on the team, because we got some big games coming up in the next 3 weeks.
Oh, without a doubt. The only thing I understand Baez, he's in a world of his own, but what bothers me is when Dora, after this raccoon thing, you would think he'd try to keep a low profile, and he just became himself more visible. And it can be a rocky relationship for him if this continues for the next 10 years.
Yeah, that's tough. And the whole the raccoon thing ended up being a positive in a sense, because it did kind of rally the team. I know, obviously, you and I know that their story was BS,
Right.
but shirts were made. They kind of used it to. I think right after that they went on a little bit of a streak. I think this is different, and you're right. I mean, I don't want our top player to be known for just these kind of irrelevant things, fights, booing the fans. I just don't get it.
Yeah. And I do give them a little bit of leeway, because there is pressure playing in New York, especially your first year, especially when Dora with the 10-year contract. And whether you're a Met or a Yankee, your first years in New York, your first year is historically always subpar to what you're doing in your career. And then usually the good players blossom at that point. Very few haven't. I mean, you have your Ed Whitsons and Britt Burns with the Yankees, but very few people have not succeeded. But the first year traditionally has been rough. So Lindor, I can see, because I just see him being so fan friendly and a good spirit out on the field. Just sometimes you just got to cut out the childish behavior. But I think Javy Baez is one of those guys that he's fun to watch. But so was Dave Kingman. But was Dave Kingman actually good for you winning a pennant? You know what I'm saying? I think Javy Baez could be one of those guys where maybe, he's great on the highlight reel, but is he really that good for the big picture? So it's going to be an interesting 48 hours. It'll be interesting to see what Sandy says today. And it will be interesting to see how the crowd reacts. Now, their first big game back tomorrow, and I don't understand the logic for this, is a day-night doubleheader with the Marlins. So they're playing a Tuesday afternoon game against the Marlins. And I can tell you right now, there'll probably be like 3,000 people at the ballpark. So it's a money grab. It's another paid admission or whatever. So, God bless the Mets for bringing in extra revenue. So it's not really going to be indicative, but maybe a small sample size of how the crowd is going to react to Baez in the next week or so. But you have to move on. And it's unfortunate these things happen. And as a Met fan, I've learned to deal with it. But it just sucks, because now it's almost like the Astros scandal. Everyone's talking about the Mets in a negative way. We're becoming a laughing stock, and it's tough. But I'm used to it. I don't know if you are or not, but I'm used to it.
It's such a 2021's been kind of a weird year, because we were in first place for like 3 months, but I think what people are going to think of for 2021 is just kind of the goofy stuff, like the Lindor thing, Lindor McNeil thing. Now this Baez thing. I don't know. It's weird. And now Noah's got COVID.
Yeah, he has it, and rumor has it he may be shut down for the rest of the year because by the time he comes back, it's a 10-day waiting period.
Yeah.
So we're already talking about the middle of September at that point. So it may be best just not to pitch him, but that's the latest rumor is he just may not pick up where he left off and take it from there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, since we're done, we let off some steam with Javy Baez, and it was therapeutic. I'm sure it was therapeutic for you too.
It's good. It's good.
Even more therapy. We get to put Joey on the couch and grill him with 5 questions. So we have 5 questions for Joey. The first one is, do you listen to radio broadcasts of baseball games?
Yeah, a ton. I actually prefer listening to games than I do watching them. The most common thing I do right now is I'll put Gary, Keith, and Ron on, but I'll just listen to it. So it'll be on my computer, but I'll minimize it and I'll listen to the game while I'm writing content for the Utopian Baseball Universe. I've actually purchased MLB packages strictly to listen to Vince Scully as I'm going to bed at night. Just put the Dodgers game on, usually get through about 4 or 5 innings. I've listened to thousands of Brewer telecasts with Bob Uecker. I mean, my earliest memories in baseball were watching the Cubs. Harry Carey, Steve Stone. When I watched the Mets games as a kid, it was Ralph Kiner and Tim McCarver. But I actually prefer listening to games than actually watching them on TV. I don't know why. I've been asked why, and it's like it just feels like the game in my head is better than maybe sometimes what I'm seeing, and it's not a knock on the game itself. It's just the way baseball is presented on television, the camera angles and such. When I'm listening to it on the radio, I'm often seeing it from angles that you don't normally see on TV.
And I agree with you on that because I sit in the same seat all the time at Met games. So when I listen to a radio broadcast, I'm actually visioning the game from my seat because I'm so encompassed on that viewpoint when I go to a game that I actually think I'm at the game, and Howie Rose and Wayne Randazzo are actually like my seatmates, and they just told me to shut up and let them talk. But even sometimes too, when I watch the Met game during the night, and I work from home now due to COVID, and I probably won't be going back for a while. If I ever do go back, and working from home may be a permanent thing for me.
Yeah.
I'll watch MLB.TV. Again, I'll put the game on from the night before, and I'll just overdub it. You can do it with the radio broadcast.
Yeah.
And I'll just have that as background noise without watching the games. I just want to hear the audio part of it. And if I ever do want to see the play, I can do it with the audio dubbing on it. So I do that sometimes just to get their feel on the game. And it's almost like a conversation, more or less, where you pick up little tidbits and everything. And it's more of a family type feel than a regular broadcast. Now, I love Keith, Ron, and Gary. But like I said, that's while you're watching a game. It's a different perspective altogether. And both, you can't lose with either one as far as I'm concerned. So I'm glad we share the same viewpoints on that. Now, the question I have for number 2 is, what player, because we're talking about Javy Baez here, what player who might be considered a hot dog do you enjoy watching, both for his playing and his baseball flamboyancy?
Well, I mentioned him earlier. I actually liked Cespedes when he was here. Every time he hit a home run, I would post on Facebook, Cespedes for the rest of us. So I did enjoy watching him, but it just got to be a little tiring at the end, like just the circumstances of him not being a Met anymore. Like he fell off a horse or something. I don't know, but and to be honest, I don't even know if he was considered like a hot dog. He just seemed to play the game nonchalantly a lot. So I guess that would be my answer. I really did enjoy his time here. I think he came here in 15, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we went to the World Series that year, and then when they extended him, I was really excited. But actually, in spring training of that year, when they extended him, he had a game where he was the ball was hitting to the gap, and he just kind of like pointed to the ball, like, oh, it's stuck, and the umpire was giving the safe sign. He's like, that's in play, and it was an inside the park homer that should have been like a play at second on a double. So I guess that would be my answer. Is I don't know how if your viewers would agree if he was a hot dog or not, but we'll say Cespedes.
Okay. Yeah, I love Cespedes too. And the funny thing is, I don't think he's considered a hot dog per se, the person I'm going to say, but Bryce Harper. I love him because everybody hates him. You know what I'm saying? So I love to see him actually thrive and just the way he plays the game at 100 miles an hour like that. So I'm not sure if he's hot dogging it. That could be really him, but he gives me a little thrill every now and then. And I know as a Met fan, I'm not supposed to say that. So
No, you can say it. He's fun to watch. He's
yeah,
I just get a kick out of he signs with Philadelphia, and then the year after he signs, the Nationals win the World Series.
yeah. And he's having a career year this year. Unfortunately, he probably won't see the playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3. What do you like? You were talking about going to the Brewer game, Met game. What do you like most about attending a major league game in person?
There's a moment right before the game that is my favorite part is when I just sit down, just taking in the sounds and the listening to the conversations. It's this kind of like cathartic, like, all right, something big's going to happen here in an hour or 90 minutes. There's kind of a build up. You see the players stretching, long tossing. You see the vendors start coming out, uh, wrapping up batting practice. There's just that moment where, all right, like here it is, and that's what I'm looking forward to the most. My first game is going to be Friday night, the 24th. Is just to kind of sit down, take all the, everything in the smells, the sight lines. The game itself goes by so quick once it starts, but those couple minutes that I have just kind of soaking it all in is my favorite part of a game.
Yeah, I have to agree with you too. And I think what I appreciate most is, I mean, I'm not going to deny it. The way TV is now, you probably see more watching at home, and you get a better perspective of like what's going on as far as pitch movement and everything else. But I just feel like you're part of the game when you're there. I don't know if that makes sense, but you feel like you're actually part of history when it's happening.
Yeah.
And the other thing I like too is before an inning starts, and a lot of people, probably don't do what I do, but I like to watch a particular position player warm up. So there's just a shortstop fielding grounders throwing the first before the start of the third inning, or the pitcher just warming up, or the catcher just getting back after an at bat, setting himself up to catch behind the plate. It's little things like that you don't see on TV, the little nuances. And when I was a kid, the one thing I did like, and you don't do it anymore, is just that's the way they schedule is you don't see the home team hit batting practice anymore. They do that like 4 in the afternoon now.
Yeah.
And I kind of miss that aspect of it. That was always fun. And as a Met fan, as a young kid, we were speaking to Dave Kingman before. He'd put on an exhibition every time you were there. That was worth going then more so than seeing the game sometimes. So that was always fun.
Yeah.
And those are the type of things you don't see when you're on watching a game on TV. But then again, when you're on TV, when the game's over, I could shut off the light and go to bed and see. Don't have to deal with the traffic or the rowdiness or anything else. But
Exactly.
there's good and bad with everything, which kind of leads me to the next question. What do you like least about attending a major league game?
Well, I got to be honest. It's just the cost. Like when I was a kid, we would sit in the general admission at County Stadium. It was $7. The bleachers were $4, and those were good seats. Now I think the same area of the ballpark ticket is I think $42, and
Wow.
a decent bleacher seat is probably 26 or something like that.
Wow.
I mean, I like to take. I mean, I've gone to games alone, but certainly there have been times where I'm taking my daughter, my sister, my niece, my mom, a friend, their kids. Now you're talking, even if you're getting just the $40 tickets, that's $240 in tickets, 20 to park. A hot dog is probably $4.50 at Miller Park, whereas I can get them at a Chinooks game for $1.25. A soda's $4. The Gracie wants a pennant or a T-shirt. There's $30 right there. You're talking about dropping $400 for one game when I can take the same 6 people to a Chinooks game or Sheboygan game and spend 40. It's just not that much of a value to me anymore. I actually don't see a ton of games anymore because of that reason. I saw, I think, 2 games in 2019. I saw 1 game in 2018. Obviously, nobody saw any games last year. That's kind of a big deal. Like, we work hard. I would love to obviously see more games, but even in the game we're going to in September, it's like, all right, it's going to be 6 of us. So, I can't be spending, $90 a ticket for, 5th row when, we can be 5th row in the upper deck and spend way less. I guess that's it. And I understand capitalism. That's a whole other show, but I think at some point I would hope that major league teams could, realize you're getting so much revenue from the TV contracts and sponsorships and all that. I'm not saying the ticket prices have to go back to 1987, but there's got to be a way to, like, I remember when Yankee Stadium opened 11, 12 years ago when they had $1,000 front.
It was actually $2,000. They knocked it down. Now it's a cheapie getting. It's $1,200 a game.
And then whenever they were on TV, the first 4 rows were completely empty on TV, and it just looks silly. So I guess that's my biggest thing. I don't have anything. There's nothing else that I can say I don't like about attending a major league game, other than maybe leaving the game, being patient enough to exit the parking lot.
Yeah, well, Citi Field's a horror show getting out of there, so you got to take public transportation if you want sanity after the game.
Yeah,
they got like 2 ways to get out, and it's like, forget about it. It's horrible. But yeah, I agree with you on the cost because my parents, they knew I was a big baseball fan. They got a Sunday plan, and it was in the Lodge, which was like the second level. And we were paying $4 a game. Now that had to be 1978, 79, 80. So even with inflation, I remember the beer prices and the price of food for some little anal when it comes to that. So beer was like $1.30 back then. And now beer at Citi Field is $14. So I would say, relatively speaking, that would be a 10 times increase in the price of beer over that 40-year period. Well, that $4 seat should only cost like $40 now. But now what they call the Excelsior level, which would be the middle level, we were right between home and first base. That would now be, on average, about $95 a game. Now, they do the tier pricing, and that's another thing they didn't do back then. So if you wanted to see the Yankees on a Saturday afternoon, they didn't have an early play about it then. Maybe Pittsburgh, who was a big opponent of ours, it was $4, and the place would be packed. Now they play Pittsburgh. Hypothetically, say Pittsburgh's the best team in the National League. They have the tier pricing. That seat will be like $200 in that same level and that's why they don't sell out. Like even Jerry Koosman night, they jacked up the prices. And like, you want to take your kids or whatever to see Jerry Koosman, even though they won't know who he is anyway. But you can't afford it because now the tickets that are usually $12 on a Tuesday night in September, they're now charging $40, $45, sit all the way upstairs. And I think their philosophy is if it's sold out, we didn't do our job because we could have still sold tickets at a higher price. And I think that's their way of thinking revenue-wise, and it sucks. And the food prices, the prices you're telling me what they are in Milwaukee, I want to go to Milwaukee and watch a game. Hot dog at Citi Field is $7. A soda is $7. A beer is $14. The cheapest thing you can get there is a plain slice of pizza, although it's a damn good slice of pizza. It's $5.50. So me, when I'm at a ballpark, for some reason I have the appetite for everything in the goddamn ballpark when I'm there. I'm like kid in the candy store. In the baseball, I want everything they have out there, but I've learned to keep it to 2 or 3 items. Otherwise, you're spending hundreds of dollars on food if you're with multiple people. And it's one of the reasons why I don't drink at a game anymore. I mean, when I was younger, I would knock them back and we'd have 5, 6 beers. We didn't care. We were young and money wasn't an issue. But then when you get older and you have responsibilities, you could spend like $100 at a ball game to get drunk. So it's a tough go. But I understand your pain when it comes to the pricing, and that's the reason why I sit upstairs. And don't get me wrong, it's a great viewpoint and everything like that, but I just can't see spending $100 to see a baseball game. If you only go to one game a year, why not? Live it up. But if you're like me, who goes to 20 to 30 games a year, it's just not worth it to me. So. All right, the last but final question, and this is the one that is not sports related. So we like to keep Joey, he's getting the baseball groove. He's talking to baseball. He's feeling comfort. He's in a little comfort zone. But now we're going to quiz him about something personal. Not personal, just kind of personal. Question 5, with the school year on the horizon, do you wish you'd go back in time and go to school again? If so, what grade do you choose to return to?
So the answer is absolutely not. I couldn't wait to get out of school. When I was a freshman in high school, I knew I didn't want to attend college because I was just tired of it. I wanted to earn a living. I would go back to childhood so I could play baseball all day, but like specifically, like if I was transported back to childhood and I was in school, I'd want to come back. But if I was transported, I was playing Little League Baseball or playing with my wrestling action figures or making mixtapes on cassettes, that I do. But the school piece of it, I've never really missed. I was kind of a quiet kid. I was bullied. I don't miss it at all. But I do miss the relationships I had, with friends, and I had some great teachers that I loved. But yeah, quite honestly, if I could go back, I want to see the schedule first before I'm committing to going back in time.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I mean, I had good friends from the school years and everything, but the experience, especially high school, I didn't like at all. It was just like 3 different cultures. You had your college prep kids, you had your kids who were just coasting through school, and then you had all your people who were going to drop out by the time they were 16. So it was a rough culture. But if I had to go back, and it's not because I love the grade level, I just love being 10 and being in 5th grade. So I was falling in love with sports, had no responsibility, played baseball and football all the time in Little League. So like you, it's not the school experience, but it would be like the age 10 to 11 because I was still innocent. There weren't any responsibilities. Teenage years weren't coming in and it wasn't creeping up adulthood. So those would be my years. So now we know that from this broadcast, both Joey and I hated school. We kind of disagree with the way Javy Baez handle things. We both agree that baseball games are a little bit too expensive for our tastes at times. And in the Utopian baseball world, we got a surprise about Wild Card Day. And that's going to be a day. And what day will that be again? So fans can circle their calendars.
Wednesday, September 29th, Wild Card Wednesday. The third place team in each division will travel to the second place team. One game. The winner will face the regular season division winner in the divisional championship series, and those are going to start on Friday, October 1st.
That's going to be great. Really, really great, and we all look forward to it. And as always, I'll be on Joey's show on Friday, and I think we're going to have to start calling it the Joey and Stan Hour Show because we just got rolling all the time. We might have to have commercial sponsors, make it a full hour somewhere along the way.
Yeah, we'll get some sponsorships in here, maybe a musical guest.
Oh, definitely.
And quite honestly, Stan, I could get a musical guest in like 5 minutes. I've got friends that are musicians, so I'm actually going to work on making that a possibility very soon.
Like Barbra Streisand, I think it's Barbra Streisand saying, "We've only just begun. It's only the beginning. There's going to be a lot happening here." So as always, and are we doing this in the off season, Joey?
I'm actually going to make an announcement Friday about what the cafe is going to look like in the off season, but I definitely would like to keep this going for sure.
We could just call it the hot stove
Yeah.
with Joey Parmesan and Meatball Head. But anyway, that's it, folks. Again, Joey, it's a blast, and we'll do it again Friday on your show. And if you want to find out where it is, it's at the Utopian Baseball Universe. Become a member, subscribe. It's coming down to the crunch time, so get involved in the pin and race there, and you can watch the show. And Joey also has a YouTube channel, Utopian Baseball Universe. So,
thanks, Stan.
All right, that'll wrap it for today, folks. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk real soon, Joey. See you Friday.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.